what do you think it was? Was it, we hear a lot about founder market fit versus product market fit. Do you think it was the angel knew really the industry and could see the potential of it? Was it the founder knew the industry and that was just believed in? What do you think was the
Well, those two
reason?
factors are absolutely true. So the big investor that came in knew medtech, and he knew the industry, and he knew exactly what we were trying to do, and no one else was doing it, which was the important thing to him.
Yeah.
But he also knew the problems that we would face. So part of his investment was the intellectual capital and experience that he brought, which in reality was probably worth more than the money.
Yeah,
but we couldn't have, you had to have both. And I think that this concept of founder fit, again, that's vitally important. The early stage funding environment, the people that are investing at that stage place terrific emphasis on the founding team. Because that first pitch deck is absolute rubbish. Well, that's a little bit of an extreme statement. It's not absolute rubbish, but it is actually at this point in time, it's a story, it's a projection, it's the best I can tell you at this point in time without having the benefits of being in the market for 2 or 3 years and actually really finding out whether it was viable. So those investors are betting on you and your team. Of course, the deck that they look at, your proposition they look at, and they'll do their due diligence. And they're still, at the end of the day, betting on you, which is actually a very interesting point. And this also applies to friends, family, and associates, acquaintances. I was talking to a very eminent and wealthy angel here, in Andorra, where I'm living now, and he was advocating that if you are going to raise funds, raise them locally. Because what the angel that you're approaching will do is, if they like the proposition, if they think, I could invest in Bill, I like this idea, I like the potential, I think there's a gap, I like the story, it makes sense to me, the pitch deck, well presented, makes sense to me, but I know there's a degree of uncertainty. But I will now talk amongst the people that I know who are likely also to know Bill, even if it's 2 or 3 connection points away. And I want to know, is he a good guy? And what? Yeah, exactly. And if that comes back in affirmation, then he's likely to go, okay, I'll go with this. And by the way, I may also bring 2 of my friends in. But he was saying the biggest problem, and particularly if you are raising funds in Europe, or to an extent raising funds in the UK as well, that personal relationship between you and the investor and his angel network is absolutely an imperative. And quite often, because this is another absolute imperative on the part of the founder, you have to build your network amongst the investing community way before you need money. So another case in point, I was working on another fundraise, which we were successful in, for another medtech company. And I went back to a gentleman who is probably one of the top angels in the UK, highly respected, been around the angel community for 30 years. And I've known him for maybe 4 or 5 years. And I went back to him and said, Richard, can you take a look at this deck? I know it's not for you. because I know what your investment thesis is. I know what you like. It's not for you, but who do you think might be interested? Now, because of my relationship with him and his trusted relationship, he looks at it and goes, okay, here's five people that you can go and talk to.
Yeah.
Now, in the event, 4 of them were angel groups, but they were the lead manager and or lead angel investor. The 5th one was an independent. Now, in the event, it was the independent that came in and funded it at the end of the day. But without that trusted relationship between myself and this angel, those leads would never have appeared. So without that networking and without that introduction, you're cold calling.
Yeah.
And you have to do a lot.
And I think this is something that founders can struggle with, because
yeah,
they have the idea, they get wedded to that idea, but they don't have those networks, those relationships, existing relationships necessarily with that investing community, because they've not been necessarily in that world before.